I will never forget the look on Shanice's face when the yacht captain called me owner. Her mouth fell open like someone had just slapped her. Her designer sunglasses, the ones she bragged cost $2,000, slid down her nose. Her perfectly manicured hand, the one that had been waving dismissively at me just seconds before, froze in midair. "Welcome aboard, Mrs. Thompson," Captain Rodriguez said warmly, extending his hand to me. "Everything is ready for your family's trip, just as you requested." I smiled, not a big smile, just a small, quiet smile that said everything I needed to say. "Thank you, Captain," I replied, shaking his hand. "I appreciate you accommodating the last-minute additions to the guest list." Shanice looked like she might faint. Her daughter, Trinity, who had been standing beside her with that same smug expression she always wore, suddenly looked very interested in her phone. My husband, Marcus, stood there looking confused, his eyes darting between me, his sister, and the yacht. "Candace," Marcus said slowly, "what's going on?" Before I could answer, Shanice found her voice. It came out high and strangled, nothing like the confident, dismissive tone she'd used 30 minutes earlier when she told me I wasn't welcome on this trip. "There must be some mistake," Shanice said, her voice shaking. "This is the Wellington family yacht. Marcus, tell her there's been a mistake." I tilted my head and looked at my husband. "Marcus, baby, why don't you tell your sister who actually owns this yacht?" The color drained from Marcus's face. Oh, he didn't know either. Let me back up and tell you how we got here, because this story doesn't start on a sunny dock in Miami. It starts 6 months earlier in my mother-in-law's living room with a conversation that would change everything. My name is Candace Thompson. I'm 38 years old, and I've been married to Marcus Wellington for 12 years. We have 2 beautiful children, Zoe, who's 10, and Isaiah, who's 8. On the surface, we had what people call a good marriage. Marcus worked as a financial analyst. I worked as a senior accountant at a mid-size firm. We lived in a nice house in a good neighborhood. We went to church on Sundays. We attended family barbecues and holiday dinners. But there was always this thing hanging over us, this shadow. And that shadow's name was Shanice Wellington Davis. Shanice is Marcus's older sister by 3 years. She's been married to Terrence Davis for 15 years, and they have 2 children, Trinity, who's 19, and Malik, who's 16. On paper, Shanice had everything: a successful husband who owned a chain of car dealerships, a big house in the suburbs, expensive cars, designer everything, and she never, ever let me forget that she had more than me. "Candace, girl, you're still driving that old Honda?" she'd say at family gatherings, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Marcus, baby brother, you need to do better for your wife." Or, "Candace, those shoes are cute. Are they from Target? I love how you can make anything work." Or my personal favorite, "You know, Candace, if you need help with your hair, I know an excellent stylist. She's expensive, but she's worth it. I could give you her number." For 12 years, I smiled through it. I took the comments. I swallowed the hurt. Because that's what you do when you marry into a family, right? You keep the peace. You don't cause drama. You remember that family is forever. Marcus would always say, "That's just how Shanice is. She doesn't mean anything by it." But she did mean it. Every single word. The real problem wasn't just Shanice, it was Marcus's whole family. His mother, Diane Wellington, had raised her children to believe that the Wellington name meant something special, that they were better than other people, that they deserved the best of everything. Diane had come from money. Her father had owned a successful construction company back in the day. She married Marcus's father, Robert, who worked as an engineer. They built a comfortable life, sent their kids to good schools, made sure everyone knew they were not like other black families. They were educated, refined, successful. And then Robert passed away 10 years ago, leaving Diane with a nice insurance payout and the house. Shanice married Terrence, who was making good money. And me? I was just Candace, the the girl Marcus met at a church function, who came from a regular working-class family in Detroit. I wasn't good enough. I never had been. 6 months ago, Diane announced at Sunday dinner that she wanted to do something special for the family. A big vacation, a yacht trip in the Caribbean to celebrate her 65th birthday. "I want all my children and grandchildren there," she said, smiling around the table. "It's going to be a wonderful time. Shanice and Terrence have already agreed to help organize everything." My kids were so excited. Zoe started talking about swimming with dolphins. Isaiah wanted to go snorkeling. Marcus was happy to see his mother so excited about something. And then Shanice took over the planning. She created a family group chat. She started sending links to expensive resort wear and yacht-appropriate outfits. She made it clear that this was going to be a fancy affair. No regular beach clothes. Everything had to be designer, or at least look expensive. "We need to represent the Wellington name properly," she wrote in the chat. I felt the pressure immediately. Marcus and I had good jobs, but we weren't rich. We had a mortgage, car payments, kids and activities. We didn't have money to drop thousands of dollars on vacation outfits. I mentioned this to Marcus privately. "Baby, I don't know if we can afford all these expensive clothes Shanice is talking about." Marcus waved it off. "Don't worry about Shanice. Just bring what you have. Nobody's going to care." But I knew that wasn't true. Shanice would care. She always did. The comments in the group chat got worse. "Ladies, I found the perfect yacht dresses at Neiman Marcus. They're only $800 each. Make sure everyone gets a fresh hairdo before the trip. First impressions matter, even on a family vacation. Terrence and I are bringing 3 suitcases each. You never know what you'll need." I started to dread this vacation. What was supposed to be a fun family trip was turning into another opportunity for Shanice to show off and make me feel small. Then, 2 months ago, things got worse. Diane called a family meeting at her house. Just the adults: Shanice, Terrence, Marcus, and me. When we got there, Diane looked serious. "I need to talk to you all about something," she said. "The yacht rental is very expensive, more than I thought it would be. Shanice and Terrence have been looking into it, and the cost is about $30,000 for the week." My stomach dropped. $30,000? "Now, I'm going to cover most of it," Diane continued. "But I'm asking everyone to chip in what they can. Shanice and Terrence have already agreed to contribute $10,000. $10,000. I felt sick. Marcus shifted beside me. "Mom, that's a lot of money." "I know, baby," Diane said. "But this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip, a celebration of family. Shanice suggested that you and Candace contribute $5,000. That would really help." $5,000. We didn't have $5,000 just lying around. I opened my mouth to say something, but Shanice cut me off. "It's for family, Candace," she said sweetly. "Surely you can make it work. Terrence and I are sacrificing a lot for this too." Sacrificing? Like their $10,000 meant the same as our $5,000. Terrence made 3 times what Marcus made. But I smiled. "We'll figure something out." We went home that night and had our first real fight about money in years. Marcus thought we should take the money from our emergency fund. I disagreed. That was for emergencies, real emergencies, not for a luxury vacation we couldn't afford. "It's for my mother's birthday," Marcus argued. "This is important to her." "And our kid's future is important to me," I shot back. "What if something happens and we need that money?" We went to bed angry that night. But the next morning, Marcus had already transferred the money to his mother. I felt betrayed. We were supposed to make big financial decisions together, but he'd chosen his family over our partnership. Still, I tried to make peace with it. The money was gone. At least we'd have a nice vacation, right? Wrong. 3 weeks ago, I got a text from Shanice. Not in the group chat. A private message. "Hey, Candace, I need to talk to you about something important. Can you call me?" I called her, my stomach already knotting with anxiety. So, Candace, Shanice started, her voice syrupy sweet. I've been thinking about the yacht trip, about the sleeping arrangements and the space. Okay, I said slowly. The thing is, there's not really enough room for everyone. The yacht has 4 cabins, one for Mom, one for me and Terrence, one for our kids, and one for Marcus and your kids. I blinked. Wait, what about me? There was a pause. Then Shanice said words I'll never forget. Well, Candace, I don't think you should come on this trip. My blood ran cold. Excuse me? It's nothing personal, she continued, her voice getting sharper. It's just that this is really a Wellington family trip, blood family, and with limited space it makes more sense for you to sit this one out. Marcus and the kids can still come, of course. I couldn't speak. I literally could not form words. Think about it, Shanice went on. You'd probably be more comfortable at home anyway. You've been saying how expensive everything is. This way, you don't have to worry about all those designer outfits. It's really for the best. Does Marcus know about this? I finally managed to ask. Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Woman to woman. I figured you'd understand. And your mother? Does Diane know you're uninviting me? Mom agrees that space is limited. She'll understand. That's when I knew. This wasn't about space. This was about Shanice finally finding a way to push me out completely. To have a Wellington family vacation without the girl from Detroit who wasn't good enough. I need to talk to Marcus, I said, my voice shaking. Of course, Shanice said. But Candace, think about what's best for the family. Don't make this into a big drama. You know how Marcus hates conflict. She hung up. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my office building and cried. 12 years. 12 years of taking her insults, swallowing my pride, trying to fit into a family that never wanted me. And now this. When Marcus got home that night, I told him what Shanice had said. I expected him to be angry, to defend me, to call his sister and tell her she was out of line. Instead, he sighed. Candace, I'm sure she didn't mean it like that. How else could she have meant it, Marcus? She literally told me not to come on the family vacation. She's probably just stressed about the planning. You know how Shanice gets. Yes, I do know how Shanice gets. I've known for 12 years, and you always take her side. I'm not taking her side. I'm just saying... What are you saying, Marcus? That I should stay home? That I should let your sister disrespect me like this? We paid $5,000 for this trip. It's my mother's birthday, Candace. Can we please not make this about you? That hurt worse than anything Shanice had said. My own husband was asking me to make myself smaller, to disappear, to not exist. We didn't talk much for the next few days. Marcus called Shanice, and whatever she told him seemed to smooth things over in his mind. He came home and said that Shanice had clarified that there had been a miscommunication, and that of course I was welcome on the trip. But I knew the truth. The only reason I was suddenly welcome again was because Marcus had pushed back even a little bit. And I knew that this vacation was going to be hell. Then something happened that changed everything. My grandmother passed away. Grandma Joyce was 92 years old. She'd lived a long, full life in Detroit, in the same house she'd bought with my grandfather back in 1965. She'd raised 6 children, had 15 grandchildren, and more great-grandchildren than anyone could keep track of. I flew to Detroit for the funeral. Marcus stayed home with the kids. It was a school week, and he said he couldn't take off work. I went alone. At the funeral, after we'd laid Grandma Joyce to rest, her lawyer pulled me aside. Candace, your grandmother left some things for you. Can you come by my office tomorrow before you fly back? I nodded, thinking it would be some personal items, maybe her wedding ring or a photo album. I was not prepared for what the lawyer told me. Grandma Joyce had been sitting on a fortune. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Back in the 1970s, my grandfather had bought several properties in Detroit, just regular houses in regular neighborhoods. When he died in 1995, Grandma Joyce kept them. She rented them out. She was quiet about it. She didn't brag or show off. She just collected rent, maintained the properties, and saved the money. Then, in the early 2000s, Detroit went through hard times. Property values crashed. But Grandma Joyce held on to her properties. She weathered the storm. And then, in the last 10 years, Detroit started coming back. Young people moved back to the city. Property values went up. Way up. Grandma Joyce had sold 3 of her properties in the last 5 years for significant profits. She'd invested that money wisely, and now she was leaving it to her grandchildren. My share was $2.3 million. I sat in that lawyer's office and cried, not because of the money, though that was overwhelming. I cried because my grandmother, who I'd visited every summer as a child, who'd made me cornbread and taught me to play spades, who'd worked as a school cafeteria worker and never acted like she had anything special. She'd been taking care of me even after death. The lawyer explained that it would take a few weeks to process everything, but the money would be mine. Free and clear. Grandma Joyce had already paid all the taxes on it. I flew home in a daze. I didn't tell Marcus right away. I needed time to process it myself. But I did tell my best friend Simone. Simone and I had been friends since college. She was a lawyer now, sharp as a tack, and didn't take nonsense from anyone. When I told her about the inheritance and everything that had been happening with Marcus's family, she got very quiet. "Candace," she finally said, "what are you going to do?" "I don't know." "Yes, you do. You've known for 12 years. You've just been too kind, too patient, too willing to keep the peace. But now you have options. You don't have to keep taking this." She was right. For the first time in my marriage, I had real power. Financial independence. Options. I started thinking about the yacht trip differently. Shanice had tried to exclude me from a family vacation, a vacation we'd paid $5,000 for, a vacation that was supposed to celebrate family. And then I got an idea. I did some research. I found out which yacht company Shanice had rented from, and I made some calls. It turns out that $2.3 million can buy you a lot of things, including a yacht, not just any yacht. The exact yacht that Shanice had rented for the family trip. The company was thrilled to sell it. They offered me a fair price, $1.8 million. I would own it outright, and I could still use their crew and services for trips. They even offered to manage it for me when I wasn't using it and rent it out to other families. It was perfect. I bought the yacht. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't tell anyone except Simone, who laughed so hard she cried when I told her my plan. "You're giving them the trip of a lifetime," she said. "On your yacht. I love it." The money from Grandma Joyce cleared into my account 1 week before the trip. I signed the papers for the yacht 3 days before we were supposed to leave. And I waited. The night before we were supposed to fly to Miami, Shanice called a final family meeting at Diane's house. She wanted to go over the itinerary one more time and make sure everyone knew the dress code for different days. I showed up with Marcus and the kids. Zoe and Isaiah ran off to play with their cousins. The adults gathered in the living room. Shanice stood at the front like she was giving a presentation. She had printed itineraries for everyone. Color-coded, laminated. "Now I've arranged for champagne when we board," she said, beaming. "And I've made dinner reservations at an exclusive restaurant on the first night. Everyone needs to wear formal attire, and I mean formal. This is the Wellington family. We represent excellence." I watched her enjoy her moment of control. "The yacht staff knows we're VIPs," she continued. "I've made sure they'll give us special treatment. This is going to be the trip of a lifetime." Diane was nodding along, looking proud of her daughter. "Any questions?" Shanice asked. I raised my hand. Shanice looked surprised. "Yes, Candace?" "I was just wondering," I said sweetly. "Did you confirm everything with the yacht company? Sometimes these rentals can fall through at the last minute. Shanice waved her hand dismissively. Of course I confirmed everything. I'm not an amateur, Candace. Everything is perfect. That's good, I said. I'd hate for there to be any surprises. There won't be, Shanice said firmly. Trust me. I smiled. Oh, I do. The next morning we all flew to Miami. Shanice had arranged for a shuttle to take us from the airport to the marina. She was in her element, directing everyone, making sure all the luggage was accounted for, checking her phone constantly. When we got to the marina, my heart started pounding. This was it. We walked down the dock, and there it was. The yacht. Beautiful, gleaming white in the sun, with Lady Joyce painted on the side in elegant script. I'd named it after my grandmother. Shanice didn't notice the name. She was too busy taking selfies and directing her kids to do the same. Everyone gather for a family photo before we board, she called out. As we lined up, the yacht captain, Captain Rodriguez, the man I'd been emailing with for the past week, came down the gangway. He looked at our group and his eyes found mine. He smiled. That's when Shanice stepped forward. Hello, she said brightly. I'm Shanice Davis. We have a reservation for the Wellington family. Party of 12. Captain Rodriguez looked confused. He glanced at me, then back at Shanice. I'm sorry, ma'am, he said politely. Could you clarify? Are you part of Mrs. Thompson's party? Shanice's smile faltered. Mrs. Thompson? No, this is the Wellington family yacht rental. I made the reservation months ago. Captain Rodriguez pulled out his tablet. I apologize for the confusion. The yacht was recently sold to its new owner, Mrs. Candace Thompson. The previous reservation was canceled, but Mrs. Thompson requested that the Wellington family still be accommodated as her guests. The silence was deafening. Shanice turned slowly to look at me. Candace, what is he talking about? I stepped forward. What he's talking about, Shanice, is that I own this yacht. I bought it last week. Diane gasped. Trinity's phone actually fell out of her hand. Terrence's eyebrows shot up so high they almost disappeared into his hairline. Marcus stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You... what? Shanice's voice was barely a whisper. I bought the yacht, I repeated calmly. With my inheritance from my grandmother. You remember Grandma Joyce, don't you? The woman from Detroit who you said never had anything special at Thanksgiving 2 years ago? Shanice's face went pale, then red. So when you told me 3 weeks ago that I shouldn't come on this trip because I wasn't really Wellington family, I continued, when you said there wasn't enough room for me, I took that to heart. You were right. I'm not a Wellington. I'm Candace Thompson, granddaughter of Joyce Matthews. And this yacht, the one you've been bragging about on social media for months, is mine. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Captain Rodriguez cleared his throat. Mrs. Thompson, should I show your guests to their cabins? I smiled at him. Yes, please. And Captain, make sure everyone has champagne. We're celebrating family. I walked up the gangway onto my yacht. Behind me, I heard Marcus calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I had waited 12 years for this moment, and it felt even better than I'd imagined. The yacht's main deck was even more beautiful than the pictures. Floor-to-ceiling windows, cream-colored leather furniture, a bar made of dark wood and marble. Captain Rodriguez gave me a subtle nod as I walked through, and I could hear the confused voices of my family behind me on the dock. Candace! Marcus's voice cut through the murmur. Candace, wait! I turned around. My husband was standing at the bottom of the gangway, looking lost. Behind him, Shanice had her hand over her mouth. Diane was fanning herself with her laminated itinerary. Terrence looked like he was trying very hard not to laugh. Are we coming aboard or are we just going to stand here? I called out sweetly. That snapped them out of it. The kids came rushing up first. Zoe, Isaiah, Trinity, and Malik. They didn't care about the drama. They saw a yacht and wanted to explore. Mom, this is amazing, Zoe squealed, running to the windows. Can we really stay here? Yes, baby, I said. This is Grandma Joyce's gift to us. Isaiah was already checking out the flat-screen TV. Does this thing have Netflix? It has everything, I told him. Captain Rodriguez began directing the crew to bring up the luggage. Slowly, the adults started coming aboard. Diane first, looking like she might faint. Then Terrence, helping his wife up the gangway, even though Shanice kept swatting his hand away. Marcus came last. He walked up to me, his face a mixture of confusion, hurt, and something else I couldn't quite read. Candace, can we talk? He said quietly. Privately? Of course, I said. Captain Rodriguez, could you show everyone to their cabins? My husband and I need a moment. The captain nodded and began leading the family toward the sleeping quarters. I watched Shanice's face as she realized she was following orders on what she thought was going to be her special trip. I led Marcus to the upper deck, to a private seating area that overlooked the marina. We sat down, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Marcus said, "When were you going to tell me?" About what? The inheritance? The yacht? All of it, Candace. All of it. His voice was tight. We're married. We're supposed to be a team. And you went behind my back and bought a yacht? I laughed. I couldn't help it. I went behind your back? Marcus, do you hear yourself? This is different. Is it? Because you went behind my back and took $5,000 out of our emergency fund for this trip. You made that decision without me. That was for family. And this isn't? I gestured around us. I bought a yacht so your family could still have their precious vacation. I could have canceled everything. I could have told Shanice that since she uninvited me, the whole thing was off. But I didn't. Marcus stood up and walked to the railing. Grandma Joyce left you over $2 million. Yes. And you didn't think to tell me? I stood up too. I was processing it, Marcus. My grandmother died. I was grieving. And I was also dealing with your sister telling me I wasn't welcome on a family trip that we paid $5,000 for. He turned to look at me. Shanice apologized for that. She said it was a miscommunication. It wasn't a miscommunication. It was exactly what she meant. She wanted me gone. And you... My voice broke. You told me not to make it about me. On my mother-in-law's birthday. Like I was being selfish for wanting to be included in my own family. Candace... For 12 years, Marcus, I have taken every insult, every dismissive comment, every little dig from your sister, from your mother. I have smiled and kept the peace and made myself smaller so everyone else could be comfortable. And the one time I stood up for myself, the one time I said, no, I'm not going to be pushed out, you act like I'm the villain. Marcus was quiet. In the distance, I could hear the kids laughing somewhere on the yacht. I love you, he said finally. But I don't recognize you right now. That hurt. It hurt so much I had to sit back down. Maybe you never really knew me, I said softly. Maybe you knew the version of me that made your family comfortable, the one who didn't rock the boat. But Marcus, I'm tired. I'm so tired of being that person. Before he could respond, there was a knock on the stairway. Captain Rodriguez appeared, looking apologetic. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Wellington, Ms. Davis, is asking to speak with you, Mrs. Thompson. She says it's urgent. I sighed. Tell her I'll be down in a minute. Marcus and I looked at each other. We're not done talking about this, he said. I know. I made my way down to the main deck. Shanice was standing by the windows, arms crossed, her face tight with barely controlled anger. Diane was sitting on one of the couches, still looking shocked. Terrence was conveniently out on the back deck with the kids. Candace, Shanice said the moment she saw me, we need to discuss this situation. What situation is that, Shanice? She gestured around wildly. This. All of this. You buying the yacht, embarrassing the family? I'm sorry, how did I embarrass the family? By providing a luxury vacation? You blindsided us! Shanice's voice was rising. You made us look like fools in front of the staff. Actually, you did that yourself when you tried to check in for a reservation that didn't exist anymore. Diane cleared her throat. Girls, please, can we all just calm down and enjoy the trip? Mom, stay out of this, Shanice snapped. Don't talk to your mother like that, I said sharply. Shanice whirled on me. You don't get to tell me how to talk to my mother. And you don't get to tell me I'm not welcome on family trips. The air crackled with tension. Diane looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch cushions. I apologized for that, Shanice said through gritted teeth. It was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. But you know what? I've decided to take the high road. You're here, aren't you? On this yacht. On this trip. I didn't cancel everything out of spite. I didn't leave you stranded. I did what family is supposed to do. I took care of everyone. With your grandmother's money, Shanice said bitterly. Money you never even told us about. Why would I tell you? So you could make comments about it? So you could find some way to diminish it? Shanice's face flushed. She knew I was right. Ladies, Captain Rodriguez appeared again, bless him. We're ready to depart whenever you give the word, Mrs. Thompson. I smiled at him. Let's set sail, Captain. As the yacht began to leave the marina, I went to find the kids. They were all out on the back deck, watching Miami shrink behind us. Zoe ran up and hugged me. Mom, this is the best day ever, she said. I hugged her back, breathing in the smell of her hair. I'm glad, baby. Isaiah was leaning over the railing with Malik, both of them pointing at fish in the water. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Then Trinity came and stood next to me. She was 19, about to start her sophomore year at Spelman. She'd always been polite to me, but distant, just like her mother taught her. Aunt Candace, she said quietly, can I ask you something? Of course. Did my mom really tell you not to come on this trip? I looked at her. She had Shanice's eyes, but Terrence's softer features. Yes, she did. Trinity nodded slowly. I thought so. I heard her on the phone a few weeks ago. She was talking to Grandma about it. My stomach tightened. Diane knew? I think so. Mom said something about how it would be better without you here. She said the family needed quality time with just blood relatives. Trinity looked uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I was going to say something, but... She trailed off. But it's hard to go against your mother, I finished for her. Yeah. I put my hand on her shoulder. I understand. And Trinity, you're always welcome in my home, and on this yacht. Family isn't just about blood. She smiled, a real smile. Thank you. That evening, Captain Rodriguez announced that dinner would be served on the upper deck. The crew had prepared a feast, grilled lobster, steak, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and a chocolate cake for dessert. We all gathered around the table. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. The ocean was calm, and Miami was just aglow on the horizon behind us. It should have been perfect, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Shanice barely touched her food. She kept checking her phone and sighing dramatically. Diane tried to make small talk about the weather. Marcus avoided looking at me. Terrence seemed to be the only one genuinely enjoying himself, which I appreciated. This lobster is incredible, he said, cracking open another tail. Candace, you've really outdone yourself. Thank you, Terrence. I'm glad someone's enjoying it. Shanice shot him a look that could have melted steel. After dinner, the kids went to watch a movie in the entertainment room. The adults stayed on the upper deck. Someone, probably Terrence, had ordered the crew to bring out wine. That's when things got interesting. Diane, after 2 glasses of wine, finally spoke up. Candace, honey, I think we need to talk about this inheritance. What about it? I asked carefully. Well, it's a lot of money. And I'm sure Joyce would have wanted you to be smart about it. Have you thought about putting it in a family trust? For the children? I blinked. A family trust? Yes, Diane continued, encouraged. That way it would be protected. For Zoe and Isaiah's future. And Marcus, as your husband, should probably have some say in how it's managed. I felt my blood pressure rising. Diane, with all due respect, my grandmother left that money to me. Not to a trust, not to Marcus. To me. But in a marriage, Diane started. In a marriage, both partners should respect each other's autonomy, I interrupted. Just like I respected Marcus's decision to give you $5,000 without discussing it with me first. Diane's mouth snapped shut. Shanice looked uncomfortable, probably realizing where some of that $5,000 had actually gone. That's different, Marcus said quietly. That was for my mother's birthday. And this yacht trip is happening because of my grandmother's hard work and smart investments, I said. I don't see the difference. Terrence whistled low. She's got a point. Terrence, Shanice hissed. He shrugged. What? She does? Look, I'm just going to say what everyone's thinking. Candace has been a good wife to Marcus for 12 years. She's raised 2 great kids. She works hard. And now she's inherited money from her grandmother, and y'all are acting like she stole it or something. Nobody said she stole anything, Shanice said defensively. No, but you're acting like she owes us something. Like we have a right to her inheritance. Terrence leaned back in his chair. I'm just saying, maybe we should all be grateful we're on this beautiful yacht having this vacation instead of complaining about how it happened. I could have kissed him. Terrence had always been the most reasonable of the Wellington family, but he rarely stood up to Shanice. Maybe tonight was full of surprises. Shanice stood up abruptly. I need some air. You're literally surrounded by air, Terrence muttered, but she was already walking away. The conversation died after that. Diane excused herself, looking tired. Marcus followed shortly after, still not meeting my eyes. That left me and Terrence on the deck. Thank you, I said quietly. For what you said. He nodded. Shanice is my wife and I love her, but she can be... He searched for the word. Difficult. That's one way to put it. She's insecure, he said. Always has been. Her daddy left when she was young and Diane was always tough on her. Expected her to be perfect. To represent the family. Shanice internalized all that. Now she projects it onto everyone else. That doesn't excuse how she treats people. No, it doesn't, he agreed. But maybe understanding it helps a little. I sipped my wine and looked out at the dark ocean. Did you know she tried to uninvite me from this trip? I found out after. She told me it was about space, but I knew better. He shook his head. I told her it was wrong. She didn't listen. She never does when she gets an idea in her head. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Can I give you some advice? Terrence asked. Husband to husband? I smiled. I'm not a husband, but go ahead. Marcus is a good man, but he's been caught between you and his family for a long time. He doesn't know how to choose without feeling like he's betraying someone. You buying this yacht without telling him? That scared him, made him feel like he doesn't know you. Maybe he doesn't. Or maybe, Terrence said gently, he only knows the version of you that was willing to shrink herself to fit into this family, and now you're standing tall and it's unfamiliar. I let those words sink in. He was right. For 12 years I'd been playing a role, being the accommodating wife, the one who didn't cause trouble, and now I was done with that role. And nobody knew what to do with me. Give him time, Terrence said, standing up. And Candace, good for you. Really. He went downstairs, leaving me alone under the stars. I stayed on the deck for a long time, thinking. About Grandma Joyce and how she'd quietly built an empire while everyone underestimated her. About my marriage, and whether Marcus and I could find our way back to each other. About Shanice, and whether we'd ever be able to coexist peacefully. Eventually, I went down to the master cabin. My cabin. On my yacht. Marcus was already in bed, his back to me. Are you awake? I asked softly. Yeah. I got into bed, leaving space between us. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the inheritance right away. He rolled over to face me. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you told me how Shanice treated you. We looked at each other in the dim light from the porthole. Where do we go from here? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. I'm not going back to being that woman who lets your family walk all over her. That person is gone. If you need me to be her to love me, then we have a bigger problem. He was quiet for a long moment. I don't need you to be anyone but yourself. I just wish I'd seen how much you were hurting all these years. I wish I'd told you. He reached for my hand. Can we start over? Not with the marriage, but with understanding each other? I'd like that. We fell asleep holding hands, and for the first time in months, I felt like maybe we'd be okay. The next morning, I woke up to shouting. I threw on a robe and ran up to the main deck. Shanice was standing in the middle of the room, her phone in her hand, her face bright red with anger. What's wrong? I asked. She whirled on me. What's wrong? What's wrong? I'll tell you what's wrong, Candace. She shoved her phone in my face. On the screen was her Instagram. She'd posted a photo yesterday before we boarded, her standing on the dock with the yacht in the background. The caption read, "About to set sail on our private yacht for Mom's birthday. # Wellington family. # luxury life. # blessed and grateful." The comments section was blowing up. Is that the Lady Joyce yacht? My friend works at the marina and said it just got sold. Didn't Candace Thompson from Detroit just buy a yacht? LOL, is this it? Girl, that yacht isn't yours. Stop fronting. Shanice was shaking with rage. Someone told everyone that you own the yacht. Everyone thinks I'm a liar. My entire social media is blowing up. I tried not to smile. I really did. But Shanice had spent months bragging about this trip on social media, posting about the Wellington family yacht experience, acting like she'd personally arranged everything, and now everyone knew the truth. I didn't tell anyone anything, I said honestly. But Shanice, you did post about a yacht that you didn't own. Because I rented it. I organized this whole trip. You rented it with money we all contributed. And then I bought it. Those are just facts. Diane came out of her cabin looking alarmed. What's all this shouting about? Mom, everyone online is laughing at me. Shanice's voice was verging on hysteria. They're saying I'm fake, that I'm trying to act rich, that I'm a fraud. Maybe you shouldn't have posted about it like it was yours, Trinity said quietly from the doorway. Shanice spun on her daughter. Excuse me? I'm just saying, Trinity continued, braver now. You've been posting about this trip for months like you're some kind of yacht owner. You had to know someone would figure out the truth eventually. I cannot believe my own daughter is taking her side, Shanice pointed at me. I'm not taking sides, Mom. I'm just saying maybe this is a good lesson about not pretending to be something you're not on social media. The irony of Trinity saying exactly what Shanice had always accused me of was not lost on anyone. Shanice looked around wildly, like she was searching for an ally. Her eyes landed on Marcus, who had just come up from the lower deck. Marcus, are you going to let your wife humiliate our family like this? Marcus looked at me, then at his sister. Shanice, Candace didn't humiliate you. She bought a yacht with her own money. If you're embarrassed about your social media posts, that's not her fault. I almost fell over. Marcus was defending me, against his sister. Shanice's mouth opened and closed like a fish. This is... She couldn't finish a sentence. Instead, she let out a strangled sound and stormed off to her cabin, slamming the door behind her. Diane sighed. I should go talk to her. Let her cool off first, Terrence suggested, coming up from the galley with a cup of coffee. You know how she gets. Diane looked uncertain, but she nodded and went back to her cabin. The rest of the day was tense. Shanice stayed in her room, only coming out for meals. When she did appear, she avoided looking at me. Diane kept trying to smooth things over with cheerful suggestions about activities. Swimming, snorkeling, playing games. But the damage was done. The perfect Wellington family vacation had cracked wide open, and everyone could see what was underneath. That evening, Captain Rodriguez announced we'd be arriving at our first island destination in the morning. A beautiful spot in the Bahamas where we could go ashore and explore. I was looking forward to it. Some distance from the yacht, from the family drama, sounded perfect. But when I went to bed that night, I found something on my pillow. A note, in Shanice's handwriting. We need to talk. Tomorrow morning. Private. Don't tell Marcus. I held the note and felt a chill run down my spine. What could Shanice possibly want to say to me that she couldn't say in front of everyone else? I had a feeling I was about to find out, and something told me I wasn't going to like it. I didn't sleep well that night. Shanice's note sat on the nightstand, and I kept looking at it like it might burst into flames. Marcus was sleeping soundly beside me, his breathing deep and even. I was tempted to wake him up and show him the note, but something stopped me. Maybe I needed to face Shanice alone. Maybe it was time for us to have a real conversation, without Marcus or Diane or anyone else running interference. At 6 a.m, before the sun was fully up, I heard a soft knock on my cabin door. I got up quietly, grabbed my robe, and slipped out into the hallway. Shanice was standing there in her silk pajamas, her hair wrapped in a bonnet, her face bare of makeup. She looked tired, old even. Without all her armor, the designer clothes, the perfect makeup, the confident smile, she just looked like a scared woman in her 40s. The upper deck, she whispered. No one else is awake yet. I followed her up the stairs. The sun was just starting to rise, turning the ocean from black to deep blue. The yacht was quiet except for the sound of the waves and the distant hum of the engine. We sat down on opposite sides of the seating area. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Shanice said, "I'm in trouble, Candace." I blinked. That was not what I'd been expecting. What kind of trouble? She looked down at her hands. Financial trouble. Bad trouble. What do you mean? Terrence owns those car dealerships. You have that big house. It's all falling apart, she said, her voice cracking. The dealerships have been struggling for 2 years. We're drowning in debt. The house is mortgaged to the max. We're barely keeping our heads above water. I stared at her. But you just contributed $10,000 to this trip. That was the last of our savings, she whispered. I took it out because I couldn't let Mom know how bad things are. I couldn't let anyone know. The Wellington family doesn't fail, right? That's what Mom always taught us. We're supposed to be successful, perfect. Better than everyone else. My anger started to dissolve, replaced by something more complicated. Pity, maybe. Or understanding. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She looked up at me and her eyes were wet. Because when I saw you on that dock yesterday, when the captain called you owner, I realized something. You won. You actually won. And I've been so busy trying to compete with you, trying to prove I'm better than you, that I didn't even notice my whole life was falling apart. Shanice, let me finish, she said. Please, I need to say this. She took a shaky breath. I've been horrible to you. For 12 years, I've been cruel and dismissive and mean. And I told myself it was because you weren't good enough for Marcus, weren't good enough for our family, but that was a lie. Then what was it? I was jealous, she said simply. You had what I wanted. A husband who actually loved you for who you are, not for what you could provide. Kids who were happy and didn't care about designer labels. A real life, not a performance. And I hated you for it. I didn't know what to say. In 12 years, Shanice had never been this honest with me. "When you married Marcus," she continued, "I thought you were just some girl from Detroit trying to climb the social ladder. Mom felt the same way. We made it our mission to make sure you knew you didn't belong. But you never broke. You just kept being you. Kind, patient, real. And it drove me crazy." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "And then you inherited all that money, and you bought this yacht, and you showed up to that dock like a queen. And I realized, you never needed us to accept you. You were always enough. And I wasted 12 years trying to make you feel small because I felt small." The sun was fully up now, painting everything gold. I watched Shanice cry, this woman who had made my life miserable for over a decade, and I felt my heart soften. "What do you want from me?" I asked gently. "Why are you telling me all of this?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe I want you to forgive me. Maybe I want you to help me. Maybe I just needed to tell someone the truth." She looked at me. "Terrence doesn't even know how bad it is. I've been hiding the credit card statements, the collection calls. Trinity's tuition is due next month, and I don't know how we're going to pay it." "Does your mother know?" "God, no. If Mom found out we were struggling, she'd—" Shanice trailed off. "She'd be so disappointed. The perfect Wellington daughter, failing at life." I thought about Diane, with her emphasis on appearances and success, about how she'd raised her children to believe they had to be perfect, about how that pressure had created someone like Shanice, so desperate to appear successful that she'd bankrupted herself trying to maintain an image. "Shanice," I said carefully, "you need to tell Terrence the truth. And you need to get professional help, a financial advisor, maybe a therapist." "I know," she whispered. "And you need to stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop trying to compete. It's killing you." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I can't forgive you overnight," I continued. "You've hurt me too much for too long, but I appreciate you being honest with me. That's a start." "That's more than I deserve," she said. We sat in silence for a while, watching the ocean. It felt strange, this moment of vulnerability with someone who'd been my enemy for so long. "The thing is," I said finally, "I never wanted to compete with you. I just wanted to be accepted, to be part of the family." "I know," she said. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "What are you going to do? About the money?" She shook her head. "I don't know. Sell the house, probably. Downsize. Start over. Terrence has been suggesting it for months, but I've been too proud." "Pride is expensive," I said. She laughed, a sad, broken sound. "Yes, it is." The yacht intercom crackled to life. "Good morning, guests. We'll be arriving at the island in approximately 1 hour. Breakfast will be served on the main deck in 30 minutes. Shanice stood up. "I should go. Get ready for the day. Pretend everything's fine." "Or," I said, "you could stop pretending." She looked at me, and for a moment I saw something shift in her eyes. Hope, maybe. "Thank you, Candace," she said quietly, "for listening, and for not throwing me overboard, which I honestly would have deserved." I smiled despite myself. "The day's not over yet." She actually laughed, a real laugh, and went back down to her cabin. I stayed on the deck, processing everything. I'd spent 12 years building up this image of Shanice as my enemy, the villain in my story. But she was just a person, a deeply insecure, hurting person who'd been taught that her worth was tied to her appearance of success. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it explained it. Marcus found me there 20 minutes later. He had 2 cups of coffee and that careful expression he got when he was trying to figure out my mood. "Morning," he said, handing me a cup. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." He sat down next to me. "Big day today. First island stop." "Marcus," I said, "I need to tell you something." I told him about Shanice's confession, about the debt, the struggling dealerships, the desperate attempt to maintain appearances. His face went through a series of expressions: shock, disbelief, concern. "I had no idea," he said when I finished. "Terrence never said anything." "Terrence doesn't know." "Jesus." Marcus rubbed his face. "We need to help them." "They need to help themselves first," I said. "But yes, if they ask for help, real help, not money to keep up appearances, we can be there for them." He looked at me. "You're being very generous, considering how she's treated you." "I'm tired of being angry," I said honestly. "It's exhausting, and maybe if she can change, if she can be honest, we can find a way to actually be family." Marcus pulled me close. "I love you. I don't say it enough, but I do. And I'm sorry I didn't see how much my family was hurting you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the inheritance right away." "We both made mistakes," he said. "But we're here now, on your yacht, living your grandmother's legacy. That's pretty amazing." I smiled. "Yeah, it is." Breakfast was surprisingly pleasant. Shanice was quiet but present. She even complimented the food, which was a first. Diane seemed confused by the shift in energy but didn't comment. The kids were excited about the island. We docked at a beautiful private beach. Captain Rodriguez had arranged for activities: snorkeling, kayaking, a picnic lunch on the sand. The kids ran off immediately, Terrence following to supervise. Diane pulled me aside. "Candace, can we talk?" Here we go, I thought. "Of course." We walked along the beach, away from the others. Diane was wearing a big sun hat and expensive sunglasses. Even on vacation, she had to look perfect. "I owe you an apology," she said, surprising me for the second time that day. "For what?" "For not standing up for you. For letting Shanice treat you badly. For—" She paused. "For never really accepting you as part of our family." I stopped walking. "What brought this on?" "Marcus talked to me this morning. He told me some things, about how you felt all these years, about Shanice trying to exclude you from this trip. He was very upset with me." She looked out at the ocean. "I didn't realize I'd been so blind. Or maybe I didn't want to see." "You raised your children to believe they had to be perfect," I said quietly, "to maintain appearances, to compete. Did you ever think about what that did to them?" Diane flinched. "I wanted them to have opportunities, to not struggle like I did growing up." "But they are struggling, Diane, just in different ways." She was quiet for a long moment. "You're right. I've put so much pressure on them to be successful that I forgot to teach them how to be happy." "It's not too late," I said. "For any of you." She looked at me, and I saw tears behind her sunglasses. "I'm sorry, Candace, truly. You've been a blessing to Marcus and to those children. I should have told you that years ago." "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." We walked back to the others in companionable silence. For the first time in 12 years, I felt like maybe Diane actually saw me. The rest of the day on the island was beautiful. We swam and snorkeled. We ate fresh fruit and grilled fish for lunch. The kids built sandcastles. Marcus and I held hands in the water, kissing like newlyweds. Even Shanice seemed lighter. She played with her kids, laughing at their jokes. I caught her looking at me a few times, and instead of the usual hostility, I saw something like respect. That evening, back on the yacht, Captain Rodriguez announced he had a surprise. "Mrs. Thompson requested something special for tonight," he said, smiling at me. "If everyone could gather on the upper deck at sunset?" When we all assembled on the upper deck, I saw what the crew had prepared. A beautiful dinner table set with candles and flowers. Soft music playing in the background. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of orange and pink. "I wanted to do something special," I said to everyone, "to celebrate Diane's birthday properly, and to celebrate family, Real family. The kind that's honest and supportive and present. I raised my glass. To Grandma Joyce, who taught me that true wealth isn't about money. It's about dignity, hard work, and taking care of the people you love. And to all of us, may we learn to be the kind of family she would be proud of. Everyone raised their glasses, even Shanice, who had tears in her eyes. To Grandma Joyce, Marcus said. To family, Diane added. We toasted, and for the first time since this trip started, it felt like we were actually together. Not perfect, not without problems, but together. Dinner was beautiful. The crew had outdone themselves. We ate and talked and laughed. Real laughter, not the forced kind we usually had at Wellington gatherings. Trinity got up and made a toast. To Aunt Candace, for showing me that being real is better than being perfect. Malik followed. To Aunt Candace, for this awesome yacht and for being cool. Even Zoe and Isaiah wanted to toast. To Mom, the best mom ever, and to Grandma Joyce, who we wish we knew better. I was crying by the end of it. Happy tears, the kind I hadn't cried in a long time. After dinner, after the kids went to bed, the adults stayed on the deck. Terrence had broken out some good whiskey. We sat under the stars, and for once, there was no tension, just conversation. That's when Shanice cleared her throat. I need to tell you all something. Terrence looked at her, concerned. Babe, what is it? Shanice took a deep breath. We're in financial trouble. Bad trouble. The dealerships are failing, and we're drowning in debt. The silence was deafening. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she said, looking at Terrence. I was ashamed. I was trying to fix it on my own, but I only made it worse. Terrence set down his glass carefully. How bad is it? Bad. We might lose the house. Trinity's tuition is due next month, and I don't know how we're going to pay it. Shanice. Terrence's voice was tight. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was supposed to be handling it. I'm Shanice Wellington Davis. I don't fail. Except I did. I failed spectacularly. Diane looked like she might faint. Why didn't you come to me? Because I didn't want to disappoint you, Mom. You've always been so proud of me, of my success. I couldn't admit that it was all falling apart. Marcus stood up and put his hand on his sister's shoulder. We're family. We're going to figure this out together. I don't want your money, Shanice said quickly. That's not why I'm telling you. I'm tired of pretending. Candace was right. Pride is expensive, and I can't afford it anymore. Terrence pulled his wife into a hug. We'll handle this, together. We'll sell the house, downsize, cut expenses. We'll make it work. Trinity's tuition, Shanice started. I'll cover Trinity's tuition, I heard myself say. Everyone turned to look at me. What? Shanice whispered. Trinity's a good kid. She's working hard at Spelman. She shouldn't have to drop out because of adult problems. I'll cover her tuition for this year. Call it an investment in family. Shanice started crying for real now. Ugly crying, the kind where you can't catch your breath. Candace, I don't deserve... Nobody said you deserve it, I interrupted gently. But she does. And that's what family does. We take care of each other. Marcus squeezed my hand. Diane was crying too. Even Terrence looked emotional. Thank you, Shanice managed to say. Thank you. Just promise me something, I said. Promise me you'll get help. Real help. A financial advisor, maybe a therapist to work through why you feel like you have to keep up appearances. And promise me you'll be honest. With yourself and with your family. I promise, she said. I really do. The rest of the yacht trip was different after that night. Lighter. Shanice was still Shanice. She couldn't change her whole personality overnight. But she was trying. She asked me questions about my grandmother. She complimented my hair without backhanded comments. She even apologized to Marcus for putting pressure on our marriage. Diane opened up about her own struggles, about being widowed young, about the pressure she felt to prove herself. She asked about my mother, my family in Detroit, my childhood. Real questions, not polite small talk. Marcus and I spent long nights talking about our future, about our marriage, about setting boundaries with his family while still staying connected, about what we wanted to teach our kids about family, money, and self-worth. And Trinity became my shadow. She wanted to know everything about Grandma Joyce, about investing, about building generational wealth, about being a strong Black woman who didn't need anyone's permission to be successful. "I want to be like you," she told me one afternoon as we sat on the back deck. "Someone who's confident in who they are, who doesn't need to perform for anyone." "You already are," I told her. "You just need to believe it." On our last night on the yacht, we had one final dinner. This time, it was casual, just pizza and wings that the crew had picked up from the last island. No fancy clothes, no formal settings. Just family, sitting around and talking. Diane stood up with her glass. "I want to make a toast. Candace, when Marcus brought you home 12 years ago, I didn't see you. Not really. I saw someone I thought wasn't good enough for my son. For our family. But I was wrong. You've been exactly what this family needed. Someone real, someone strong, someone who won't shrink herself to make others comfortable." She raised her glass higher. "Thank you for this trip. Thank you for your patience with us. And thank you for showing us what true class really looks like." Everyone cheered. Marcus kissed my cheek. Isaiah hugged my waist. "And thank you to Joyce Matthews," Diane continued. "A woman I never met, but who clearly was extraordinary. May we all learn from her example. Work hard, save wisely, and take care of family." "To Grandma Joyce!" everyone chorused. We clinked glasses, and I felt something release in my chest. Something I'd been holding on to for 12 years. The need to be accepted. The desire to fit in. The fear that I wasn't enough. I was enough. I'd always been enough. The next day we docked back in Miami. As we gathered our luggage and prepared to disembark, Captain Rodriguez pulled me aside. "Mrs. Thompson, it's been an honor having you and your family aboard. Will you be using the Lady Joyce again soon?" I thought about it. "Actually, Captain, I have an idea. What if we made the yacht available for other families? Black families who might not usually have access to something like this? Families celebrating milestones, or who need a break from the stress of everyday life?" His face lit up. "That would be wonderful. We could work with local organizations, churches, community groups." "Let's do it," I said. "Grandma Joyce would have loved that." Marcus came up behind me. "That's a beautiful idea." "It's what she would have wanted," I said. "Wealth isn't for hoarding, it's for sharing. For lifting others up." We rode back to the airport in 2 vans. At the terminal, as we were saying our goodbyes, Shanice hugged me. A real hug, not the fake air kiss kind we usually did. "Thank you," she whispered in my ear. "For everything. For the tuition, for listening, for not giving up on this family even when we gave you every reason to." "Thank you for being honest," I said. "That took real courage." She pulled back and smiled, a genuine smile. "I'm going to do better, I promise." "I believe you." Diane hugged me next. "You're a blessing, Candace. I'm sorry it took me 12 years to see it." "Better late than never," I said. On the plane home, Marcus held my hand. "That was some trip." "Yes, it was." "You know what the crazy thing is?" he said. "I don't think we went on a vacation. I think we went on a journey." I laughed. "That's corny." "But true." He was right. We'd all gone on a journey. Shanice had faced her demons. Diane had confronted her own role in the family dysfunction. Marcus had learned to stand up for our marriage. And I had learned that I didn't need anyone's permission to be powerful. 3 months later, I was back in Detroit for another visit. This time, the whole family came with me. We visited Grandma Joyce's grave, bringing flowers and stories. I told her about the yacht, about the trip, about how her gift had changed everything. "Thank you," I whispered to her headstone, "for seeing me, for believing in me, for showing me that I was always enough." Marcus put his arm around me. The kids placed their flowers gently by the headstone, and I felt Grandma Joyce's presence like a warm breeze on my face. 6 months after that, Trinity graduated from Spelman with honors. The whole family was there. Me, Marcus, the kids, Shanice, Terrence, Malik, and Diane. Shanice and Terrence had sold their big house and moved into a smaller, more affordable place. They were seeing a financial counselor and a marriage therapist. Things were still hard, but they were facing it together, honestly. As Trinity walked across the stage, Shanice grabbed my hand and squeezed it. "She wouldn't be here without you," she said. "She's here because she worked hard," I said. "I just helped a little." "You did more than that." After the ceremony, Trinity came running up to us, her diploma in hand, her face glowing with joy. "I did it!" she shouted. "Aunt Candace, I did it!" I hugged her tight. "Yes, you did. Your great-grandma Joyce would be so proud." That evening, we all had dinner at a nice restaurant. We laughed and told stories and celebrated Trinity's achievement. And sitting there, surrounded by family, imperfect, complicated, but real family, I felt a deep sense of peace. The yacht trip hadn't fixed everything. Relationships don't work like that. But it had opened a door. It had started conversations that needed to happen. It had forced all of us to look at ourselves honestly and decide who we wanted to be. Shanice still had moments where she slipped into old patterns. Diane still sometimes made comments about appearances. Marcus still struggled with setting boundaries. But we were all trying. We were all growing. And that was enough. As we toasted to Trinity's future, I thought about that day on the dock in Miami. The look on Shanice's face when she realized I owned the yacht. The shock. The humiliation. The anger. But I also thought about what came after. The honest conversation. The tears. The slow rebuilding of trust. Revenge would have been keeping them off the yacht. Revenge would have been rubbing my wealth in their faces and walking away from the family. But liberation was showing up as myself, boundaries intact, and giving them the chance to show up too. Liberation was using Grandma Joyce's gift, not just for myself, but for the next generation. Liberation was learning that I didn't need their acceptance, but choosing to build something real with them anyway. That night, back at the hotel, I called Simone. "Girl," she said when she answered, "I've been dying to hear about the graduation. How was it?" "It was perfect," I said. "And Simone, I'm happy, really, genuinely happy." "That's what I like to hear." "So, the yacht trip really changed things?" "It changed everything, but not in the way I expected. I thought buying that yacht was about showing them I'd made it, that I was successful, that they'd been wrong about me. And it wasn't about them at all. It was about me finally seeing my own worth. Everything else just followed from that." Simone laughed. "Look at you, all wise and self-actualized. Grandma Joyce raised you right, even from a distance." "Yes, she did." After I hung up, I looked out the hotel window at the Detroit skyline. This city had shaped me. Grandma Joyce had shaped me. All the struggles, all the years of feeling like I wasn't enough, they had shaped me too. But I got to decide what those experiences meant. I got to choose how my story ended. And I chose liberation. I chose authenticity. I chose boundaries with love. I chose to be exactly who I was meant to be. Candace Thompson, granddaughter of Joyce Matthews, wife, mother, yacht owner, and a woman who refused to shrink herself for anyone. The Lady Joyce was more than just a yacht. It was a symbol, A reminder that quiet strength builds empires, that patience and dignity always win in the end, that you can be kind without being a doormat, forgiving without being a fool. And most importantly, that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in freedom. The freedom to be yourself, to set boundaries, to love on your own terms, and to walk away from anything that makes you small. I had that freedom now. And it felt better than any yacht, any inheritance, any amount of money ever could. As I got ready for bed, Marcus came up behind me and hugged me from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Just how far we've come," I said, "and how grateful I am for this journey." "Even the hard parts?" "Especially the hard parts," I said. "They made the good parts sweeter." He kissed the top of my head. "I love you, Candace Thompson." "I love you too." And I meant it. Not the way I'd loved him at the beginning, when I was trying so hard to fit into his world, but deeper, truer, the kind of love that comes from really knowing someone and choosing them anyway, the kind of love that Grandma Joyce would approve of. That night, I dreamed of her. She was sitting in her kitchen in Detroit, wearing her favorite apron, making cornbread. She looked at me and smiled. "You did good, baby girl," she said. "Real good." "Thank you, Grandma," I said, "for everything." "You don't need to thank me. Just keep being who you are, keep standing tall, and remember, you were always enough. You just finally believe it now." I woke up with tears on my face and peace in my heart. The yacht trip had started as a petty revenge fantasy. Me showing up Shanice, proving I was better, getting the last laugh. But it ended as something far more valuable. It ended with healing, with growth, with family, messy, complicated, imperfect family, finding their way back to each other. And it ended with me, finally, completely, understanding my worth. Not because of a yacht, not because of money, but because I had decided to stop performing, stop shrinking, stop apologizing for taking up space. Grandma Joyce had given me more than an inheritance. She'd given me permission to be free, and I planned to spend the rest of my life living in that freedom. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.